Your martial arts movie podcast.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Featuring drunken Thai boxer Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler Mark.
I said I don't want trouble.
And drunken karate master Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
Tall. I know Kung Fu.
You know, baby.
Fists of Fail.
Is it? I think this is RZA's favorite movie. Today we're talking about the RZA's favorite movie. Yeah. According to that Vanity Fair
sent me that
video.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I forgot to finish it because I didn't want to spoil the movie. But so he confirmed that 8 Diagram Pole Fighter is his favorite movie, or at least maybe favorite martial arts movie.
Well, maybe that's hyperbole. I mean, he's probably watched a whole bunch of them, but like in terms of what might have influenced his work, maybe it could be like the most influential. I don't know. I'm actually kind of confused by why this is particularly his favorite. Okay, well let's backpedal a little bit. Today we're talking about 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, or Invincible Pole Fighters, plural, which is weird because it's just one kind of. I mean, there's multiple you can say, but it's really about one. So whatever. So this is RZA's favorite movie, according to that Vanity Fair video, and
maybe it's his favorite movie that he sampled from. Out of all the movies he sampled from, this is his favorite one.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to allude to. But like in terms of like the movie itself, I was actually kind of surprised by that, because I think Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, there's for me, there's more substance in that movie. Okay. And this is not me saying to immediately try to compare and contrast movies, but I'm just surprised to hear that this is his favorite. So, 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. This is a movie that we've actually thought about doing on the show before. I was like, I wouldn't mind passing on this movie. Mm-hmm. And here we are, going back full circle and doing it anyways.
Right. I wanted to talk about this movie because I enjoyed the film as a whole. Looking back at it now, when I look at the fights, and I was thinking, okay, how am I going to talk about this movie, considering we like to break down the fights? It's not the easiest. This is directed by Liu Chia Liang, right? Chia Liang Liu. I like him as a fight choreographer and a director. He does group fights really well, or at least I like the way he does group fights. But when it comes to breaking down a group fight, sometimes that's not the easiest, especially when you have a pole or a spear and you're in a war battle setting. Because realistically, and even this is a movie, they don't have to be realistic, but you're not gonna do longer bouts of choreography with lots of combinations with a spear when you're fighting in war. That doesn't make sense. So when you see this crazy long opening battle scene, people aren't doing all these complicated moves. It's like a couple swipes and people go down. Right. And then how do we dissect that? Right?
I really can't. Well, I think it's maybe not too complicated, but it's complicated enough, and there's just so much happening on that screen that I think it's hard to talk about for that particular reason. You definitely you can tell that there's choreography involved. Obviously, there's choreography.
Yeah, there's a lot of choreography.
Exactly, there's too much, and it's it is somewhere between sometimes it feels very complicated and it feels very elaborate, and other times it feels like too much happening on screen, and that's the only reason why I can't concentrate on any particular movement. Even if there is a really elaborate flashy thing going on, it's immediately we're moving on to the next thing. So it's just too much happening all at once. So that's the reason why we didn't want to talk about it. Well, I didn't want to talk about it originally, but that was also last year that we were contemplating, or maybe the year before.
So we had a theme month where we were talking about weapons fights in martial arts movies, and obviously 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. So I figured, let's talk about this one. we decided not to. I think we went with Legendary Weapons of China, another Liu Chia Liang movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. To be fair, like I guess they're kind of in the same kind of boat. I think that this movie's probably a better film, all in all. But I think I probably settled with that. That's choreography.
Well, that one had more fights that we could break down because there's lots of one-on-one encounters in that movie, or two-on-one encounters. This one, it's like one-on-many. This is all fucking. It's like it's battles. It's lots of battles going on. Yeah, and it's fun. That's kind of why I like the movie. This feels a little more akin to an action movie than a martial arts movie, but it's heavily. There's lots of martial arts in it. It's heavily martial arts influence, so it's in the realm. It's there.
Yeah. I think the premise really lends itself to being everything you just described. Like, why do we have like all-out battles? Well, it's basically kind of almost like a war film at times. I mean, at least comes down to it.
Yeah, the beginning is set in the beginning of the story revolves around this family. What are the Yang family?
Mm-hmm.
So they are, I guess they are kind of betrayed or misled at the Golden Beach battle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's 7 sons, and then there's a father. They're kind of betrayed. 5 of the sons are killed. No. Actually, upon rewatching it, I realized that's not true. 4 of the sons are killed. One of the sons is actually captured by the librarians, and I was like, wait, what happened to him? I didn't notice this the first time. Never really brought up again. One of the sons suffers tremendous PTSD from the battle. He kind of goes crazy and he goes home. And then the other son, played by Gordon Liu, who is our main hero, he escapes and he finds refugee in a monastery and becomes a monk.
Yes. So all that is true. And this story is supposed to be it's actually referencing or it's an adaptation of a piece of literature.
Was it literature or was it based on history? That's what I was curious about.
Ooh, that is a very good point. I actually don't know the answer to that. All I know is that it's supposed to be it's supposed to be referencing like the events of that story. It's called The Generals of the Yang Family. It is a folklore. It's a bunch of folklore. So we actually don't know if this is all that actually happened or not. But according to those legends, there's this battle, and there are 3 sons who survived, and basically that's where the story would have continued. I don't know much about the original source material. Basically anything before the Qing Dynasty, I know very little of Chinese history. I am a disgrace to my ancestors. So, this movie takes place a little older time. Like when China was going through like the Mongol invasion. So that's the backdrop of the story. I guess I'll do a little bit of the story. I guess I'll do the story. So,
I explained the first part and then what leads into the general plot. Yeah.
So the Yang family, they are a family of patriots. They love their country. They all their sons, I believe 7 of them. 7. Wow, damn. There's 7 of them. The 7 sons and their the head of the household of the Yang family are at war. They are going against the Mongols, and it turns out that there is someone who has basically been a friend of the Yang family. The character's name is in Cantonese is Pun Mei, or in the subtitles Pan Mei. He betrays them. He sides with the Mongols and basically gets them all killed. This happens within the first 5 minutes of the movie.
During the credits of the movie. And the credits goes on very long. And the credits is actually a fight scene.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's basically what sets up the rest of the story. Basically, 2 of them survive. One of them gets captured.
I said all this already, Will.
Yeah, but Alexander Fusheng is the one who gets PTSD.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk more about him because there's actually a lot of story revolving the production of this revolving what actually ended up happening to that actor. And then Gordon Liu, he goes to the monastery, or I guess I don't even know if it's Shaolin at the time, probably not. He goes to become a monk in order to hide out from Punmei, I guess, and all the defectors. That's the basic plot. I guess
that.
we'll talk about.
Yeah, you're supposed to elaborate more on it. I just said all that.
Well, I don't know. Okay, let's talk about the production then. Sure. Alexander Fusheng. He unfortunately halfway through the production of the movie, he died in a car accident. This was something that obviously wasn't foreseen, and he kind of just disappears from the movie like partway through the film. And then Kara Wai kind of has to step in and take over in the plot. And that's why like the end fight has her in it rather than him, because I think that the original story, even the original source material, like it was like all the surviving brothers that wanted to avenge their family, whatever.
Right. That's what the movie seems to be driving towards, because a lot of Alexander Fusheng's character, like he's just dealing with his PTSD. He's trying to get through it. And you can kind of tell there's going to be a redemption for him. He's going to finally snap out of his senses and then, thrive in the end and avenge the death of his father and his brothers. Mm-hmm. But because of his untimely death, unfortunately, I thought they wrote him out well, because you kind of you realize he's not there anymore, and then the movie keeps going. Like they never. He was never in like this moment where he was supposed to do something and then they have to cut because there's no material left. He just kind of quietly leaves the movie in a place that it makes sense, because he is crazy during the movie. So you can kind of buy that they just have to put him aside because he's unwell.
Yeah. I think it's a little weird, but when I watched the movie the first time, I didn't know all this the backstory behind what happened to the actor. So I thought it was a little strange, but obviously it makes sense. Like they didn't want to pull a Bruce Lee and just like have a guy, like
a
wearing
cardboard
a bracelet.
cut out of it.
Yep, and just put it on a mirror. Yeah, no, they didn't want to do that, and they were trying to be tasteful to
the actor and his family.
To the actor, exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think this movie didn't do very well in theaters initially, because of the fact that people thought like, oh, it's just going to be some sort of cash grab, or it'd be distasteful, kind of in the vein of like, what happened to Bruce Lee. Right. So, it's after the fact now, like people look back on this movie, and I think that they did a pretty good job with the editing, given all that. Obviously with the script rewrites and everything, but like just editing around it feels like, oh, if I didn't know this story, I didn't know what happened to the actor, I wouldn't have known. Yeah,
it's great what they did with it, because Kara Wai is in it, and she feels like she would have just had this forgettable role, because she's one of the sisters. She's there every now and then to assist the mother, and she gives a little lines of dialogue here and there. And her role becomes extremely elevated at the end because she needs to step in for Alexander Fusheng. And it's great what they had her do, unfortunately, because of the situation. But, she got time to shine. So there's that.
Yeah. I'm really curious about this, though, because they almost make it seem like the movie was just going to have Alexander Fusheng be like the star. And then they somehow inadvertently made Gordon Liu the real star. It almost seems like the original plan was like Gordon Liu was just going to be like a co-star, or like second to Alexander Fusheng. Yeah, that's why I find really bizarre. It's in the marketing and everything.
In the original story, from what I saw on IMDb, Alexander Fusheng's character is actually the one who he beats everybody in the end. His character is the one that goes to the monastery.
Okay.
So obviously, because he passed away, they've rewrote it so Gordon Liu's character goes to the monastery, and he takes up a bulk of the film. So just imagine everything happening in the monastery was supposed to be Alexander Fusheng.
That's the problem is they wrote it that even the scenes where Alexander is alive and he's acting, he's speaking dialogue, we're acknowledging the fact that Gordon Liu's still out there. So it's like they're already setting up that Gordon Liu's going to be the one going to monastery. So I'm just very curious, like what their original plans were.
We don't really know. They could have dropped all of that stuff and wrote around it because he died. So that's everything we're seeing is probably all the rewritten stuff.
That is true because they didn't have on-set audio, so they could have totally just
changed dialogue,
inserted whatever the dubbing is. No, that's very true.
That's possible. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. The actors are probably just going blah 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 blah. Yeah. All right, so that's the story and the backdrop of the movie, and I wanted to talk about Liu Chia Liang. One last piece about the production of the movie. This is one of Shaw Brothers' last period piece movie. Actually, no, this is Shaw Brothers' last period film ever.
Their last official.
Not last movie, but last period piece.
Okay. This is 84 already. We're getting in the 80s already, and we've already kind of switched to modern action.
Yeah.
At this point.
Oh my God. Yeah, right. That's right. Police Story came out the following year.
Yeah, that's where the transition came.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I would like to say like the action is, it's there. It's like it's just like right there. Mm-hmm. The metronome, really like dancey style fighting is almost like non-existent in this movie. It's still there, but it's just like a flicker of it.
There's semblances of it, or there's feelings of it because of the old sound effects too. Mm-hmm. That's something that I kept on harping on, at least in my watch. I was like, oh man, like I wish somebody would recompose this with modern sounds because I can see the speed. I can see the speed. The camera work is really nice. They're using a variety of shot compositions, but it's those old Shaw Brothers effects that it makes it feel less modern to me.
Yeah. So this, with my limited knowledge of the Shaw Brothers era, like the Chang Che, King Hu era of Shaw Brothers, like it's all fine and all, but like it wasn't until Liu Chia Liang got out there and he really that's when Shaw Brothers really stepped up, and unfortunately it didn't last super long. It was I think Shaw Brothers I think they closed up in the mid 80s to late 80s, so this is one of their close to final films, which is a shame because I mean of course Gordon Liu and Liu Chia Liang went on to better things, so it's not it's all
all for
negative.
Not
exactly but a diagram pole fighter. I think that the reason why RZA likes the movie so much is because there's that brotherhood thing going on in the beginning of the film. But I don't know. I found that the movie is, I don't know. I never found that I think that the story is engaging for sure, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's the best. Right? I don't know. Am I just being negative here?
I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. You know what? I felt that the story was very Shakespearean in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It had that kind of epic scope to it. This felt like it had a much higher budget. The sets are really nice. Sure. All the costume design is really nice. Everything is shot very well. So it feels like there's money there. It feels like this wasn't churned out in an afternoon. Maybe because of the death of one of the actors, maybe they didn't want to, maybe they wanted to send them off right. So maybe they decided to jazz things up a little bit. But even still, it looks really nice. It doesn't look like it was slapped together very quickly.
I think the only reason why I'm thinking the way that I am is because I'm riding off the high of our last movie, Shaolin vs. Wu-Tang, and I was that movie was much lower budget, and I enjoyed that movie a lot more from almost all standpoints.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean that. I mean, I'm being completely unfair, for sure, because but yeah, with all things said and done, I do find the movie engaging, and I think everything you said is true. I think that the movie actually has great cinematography and great sets, all in all. like I'm very impressed sometimes, like just like scenes of them like going into the temple, like him, Gordon Liu, like like walking up to Buddha and just seeing that set. I'm just like super impressed by that, because it's like, compare that to 36 Chambers, where it's like it was just like 2 rooms.
There's
right?
there's a lot of emotion going on in this movie too.
Yeah.
Like they're acting their hearts out. They're really doing their best with the simplicity of what they're trying to tell. Like Gordon Liu is so emotional when he's determined to become a monk. There's definitely some inner struggle going on with him, because the idea that they keep on reiterating this the whole movie too, that he'll never really be a monk. He'll never really be able to, live like Buddha, because he has so much of that rage and warrior, like fight in him. So he'll never be able to get rid of that. And he struggles with that a lot in the movie. And when he wants to get, tonsured? When he wants to shave his head, he's like so emotional. And I thought he did a good job with the acting. It was hard for me to understand that, but I still think the feeling is coming across there.
Yeah. Well, the conflict is very easy to understand. Like it's about the whole pacifism versus like taking violence kind of approach. I mean, I find that the ending is kind of muddled in terms of their messaging, but it's purposeful. They do that intentionally.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about too. Is like how they're handling the themes of violence in this movie, because I think it starts out really interesting. Because so Alexander Fusheng, he's got this PTSD, and he's just lashing out. He's so violent to everybody towards his family, who are trying to take care of him. And there's a moment where he coddles his spear, because like that's all he knows now. Like that's all, the only comfort he has is violence. Yes. And then it juxtaposes to Gordon Liu, who has like removed the spear tip from his spear, and it's almost like he's saying like he's trying to get rid of that violent part of his life. But then everything with him in the monastery is just him being this like toxic man who is just like, well, the way we solve our problems is with violence, and like that's what he keeps on reiterating to everyone, and all the monks are like, no, dude, that's not what we do here. Stop it. They keep on like reprimanding him, and he's like, no, I'm pretty sure violence is the answer.
See, okay, so that's where a lot of my complaints come in. Like, and I get it. I totally get like what they're trying to do in the movie. He's my problem with the character, and it's more of a nitpick. It's he is trying to hide out, and he's basically just like he's trying to hide and just like hone his skills and like think of some sort of way to like get revenge eventually, like basically until he figures something out, right? Yeah. So him hiding out, he is like doing everything in his power to like just stand out, and then he's just like, and making it harder for himself. Like, I need you guys to accept me now. Let me make your lives difficult. Intentionally,
right? Yeah, I mean he's trying to hide they're being kind enough and letting him in, but then he keeps on shoving his agenda on everybody, and like, this is how I would do things. Like, no, man, you're supposed to follow Buddha's path. He's like, I'm pretty sure violence is the answer.
Well, okay, so that's more of a nitpick. Like when you watch the movie, like it's more subtle, played out well. Yeah, it's subtle. It's played out well. But when you really think about it, it's like, dude, like, if you don't want to stand out, shut up, shut up and assimilate. Right.
Well, I mean, I guess the idea, if you think about it, the idea is he's hiding out in a monastery. I guess the guards and everybody looking for him technically have no jurisdiction there, so he could do whatever the fuck he wants there. But he really shouldn't be, rattling cages and getting himself potentially kicked out. He should fall in line, just be a, devout monk. Stop all this violent stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like generally speaking in terms of the story, that's like I guess that's everything. I guess we could talk about the action now, unless there's something else you want to bring up.
No, yeah, we can get into it. So if you want to hear us go into more detail. We'll go into the plot and spoilers, and then we will talk about the action. And if you want to hear that, you could listen to us on Patreon.
Mm-hmm. This is the Patreon section, so if you want to hear more, it would start somewhere around here, I guess. Okay. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. We're at the point where we give our recommendations, but there's a whole wealth of audio you would be listening to here if you follow us on Patreon. There you can listen to the entire episode, including an exclusive action breakdown of the fights in the movie. And now on to our final thoughts. That's 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. This is a movie that we should have talked about earlier. I had my hesitations. After talking about it, I still kind of had hesitations.
Well, yeah. We
it's hard to break down. It's as an episode.
Right. We didn't go into the detail with the fight choreography because it's just a little difficult when you have the group fighting. We mentioned that in the Patreon section. I mentioned a little bit in the beginning. But, man, that last fight... I said this before, and I was just it won me over because there's just so much craziness going on. It's really complicated, and I like how Lau Kar-Long does his group fights. So like, the movie ends with a bang, and that's all I could ever want from it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the movie's interesting. I think I won't lie. When the movie started, and because I don't know the source material, I found the story a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I got lost the first time a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this takes place in the Song Dynasty. I don't know much about anything pre-Qing, like I mentioned before. So there was a lot of like story that I had to kind of like watch again. I had to try to understand by rewatching the movie. Maybe other people who are smarter than me might not have had that problem, but I don't know. Like once you actually get the story, I do think it's actually very fascinating. Because it's not a super simple plot. There's a lot of intrigue and a lot of like reasons for everyone's motivations, and there's just enough that goes on that it makes it always makes the story engaging. But I think this is one of those examples where the story is the first driving force for this movie. The actions for me is just okay. I feel like the movie progressively gets better with the action choreography. I mean, sporadically, you get some pretty good ones, but like towards the end, especially with the last two fights, like those get really good, we're like no longer in the old school territory. Like we're like officially like we're as close to modern martial arts movie territory as possible. So like that's where I feel like the movie really shined.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I like the movie more than you did overall because I did like this. I did want to talk about it before I recommended it. But hey, we're doing it because we're still in Wu-Tang Inspiration Month. I don't know what it is. A RZA recommendation.
Doesn't roll off the tongue. RZA month. I know.
Sure. We're in his recommendation month. I like this movie as a whole, and I did get a little confused in the beginning, just like you did. Upon the second rewatch, I was like, okay, I get it. I get the story. And then, the action. It's. I said it before. It's not the kind of action we can break down, but I like it a lot. And then, man, the ending fight. It's pandemonium. It's visual pandemonium, and it's just so fun. And there's so many like laugh out loud moments, at least for me. So I recommend the movie. I think it's a good watch.
Yeah. No, I okay. Like as harsh as I was, I mean, I don't feel like I'm even that harsh. I just didn't love the fighting. I like it, but I don't love it. I still recommend the movie. I think the movie's still a good watch, regardless. Not so much for the action wise, but I think you can still enjoy it as a movie. I did want to talk about it regardless, like whether we're gonna do it now or maybe in the future, because like I didn't realize it was Riz's favorite. So if we're gonna do Wu-Tang month, we have to talk about it anyways. But you know who's also a fan of this movie?
Who?
Quentin Tarantino, because basically all the musical stings in this movie were in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't like Kill Bill Volume 2, so I think I've only seen that a few times.
Okay, and that's why we're never going to talk about Kill Bill.
Are we?
Probably.
Maybe not. Hey, let us know if you want to hear us talk about Kill Bill 2 or 1.
We already did Women's Appreciation Month twice, and we still haven't talked about Kill Bill.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just maybe,
Beg us,
maybe.
please.
Everyone pressure 0.